So hello everyone, my name is Tadhg Madden and I'm an acting Senior Executive Engineer in Laois County Council, working in community, corporate and climate change. So thanks to Patricia for inviting me to talk to you today, and we'll get going. So I'm here to talk about the first steps of Portlaoise Low Carbon Town. So Portlaoise secured funding under the Urban Regeneration Development Fund in 2019 for development of a number of initiatives that envisage Portlaoise becoming the first low carbon town in Ireland. So we're not there yet, but we're on a pathway to achieving this. So Portlaoise is the principal town in County Laois and is earmarked as a regeneration and development demonstration town under the National Planning Framework. And we're 18 months into the National Climate Action Plan, and we have developed our Laois County Council Climate Adaptation Plan, and we're adhering to the Paris Agreement and the Kyoto Protocol. And Portlaoise Low Carbon Town is going to be a demonstration project for the country. So the department is looking very closely at us to see what we can do, how we can raise awareness, what can be learned from it. So we're in the middle of a couple of exciting projects. Number one, to measure the carbon footprint of Portlaoise, and also to deliver 20 electric vehicle charge point spaces in Portlaoise town. So these two projects will be the first time anything like that is being done on this scale in the country, and they're exciting to see where we're going and what we can achieve. So the aim of the low carbon town is to primarily remove the dominance of cars within Portlaoise town centre and address the poor pedestrian experience of the area, and adapt to lower emission vehicles through the provision of EV charge point spaces, adapt homes and businesses which need to be heated in a more cost efficient and energy efficient way. And we'll also be investing an estimated €2.7 million over the next 3 years to make this low carbon town a reality. So I just want to thank the department for the funding and a great opportunity to show what we can do down here in Laois and what we can learn, and we're delighted to be part of a very exciting project. So our first steps, we need to start taking baby steps here. We're only starting out in climate action, and we need to learn to walk before we can run. So it's about taking the smaller steps initially and progressing gradually, and learn as much as we can from what we're doing. So the Irish government launched the Climate Action Plan in 2019, and it has more than 180 actions to help us meet our 2030 emission reductions, and with a view to being carbon neutral by 2050. So there's an unmistakable global need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and keep the temperatures down to a minimum. We don't want to see a rise of 1.5 degrees. That's what we're trying to stay away from. So we all need to step up and meet this challenge. So some of the first steps we've done in Laois County Council and other councils will be very similar, in that we signed off on our climate adaptation strategy in September 2019, and this is the first step in increasing the knowledge and understanding of our changing climate and enabling effective responses to the threats posed by climate change. And it's important to ensure that adaptation considerations are mainstreamed into all our plans and policies and integrated into all operations and functions of a local authority. So this is currently being adopted into our service delivery plans, and there's a huge chapter being drafted for the new draft development plan as well for climate change. We've also signed up to the Climate Action Charter, which most local authorities will have done as well, to ensure we meet our 2030 commitments to get to near zero by 2050. And it's all about cooperation and collaboration. So it's about tackling the climate crisis with a number of organisations working together for solutions. And these reductions won't be achieved alone, but only in cooperation and working together. So what is a low carbon town decarbonisation zone? It's a reduction of carbon dioxide emissions through low carbon power sources, achieving a lower output of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. And it's a must now if the world is to contain the damage and build resilience in the face of such a profound challenge. So as I said, work is taking place in developing Portlaoise as a low carbon town, and we want to boost our energy efficiencies and reduce our fossil fuel energy use, as this is vital to manage rapidly growing energy consumption in urban areas. We want to encourage the creation of low carbon communities in urban development plans and share best practices for making such communities a reality. So as I mentioned before, under the Climate Action Plan, there was 183 actions set out and showing how we'll meet our 2030 targets. I suppose the one in Portlaoise, which we are looking at closely, is Action 165. So it's extend the flagship low carbon projects to other towns and villages. Excuse me. So, under Action 165, all local authorities will be asked to develop a decarbonisation project. So, Laois are just out in front here in that we're being used as a pilot whereby, lessons can be learned for other towns of a similar size within the Midlands region. So we're creating the Ireland's first low carbon town centre, and it's to improve overall air and environmental quality, but also to promote health and well-being. And this is being rolled out as a project or a pilot project under the Regional Enterprise Plan to 2020, and it'll serve as a roadmap for the development and rollout of similar low carbon initiatives in the county towns of the Midlands. And during the course of this project, we'll carry out a review to identify lessons. This will be very beneficial for other towns of a similar size. So, all local authorities will be, as I said, will be asked to develop decarbonisation projects. And this project has been, brought to fruition by many parties, including ourselves, the SEAI, CARO offices, Downtown Portlaoise, ESB Networks, Midlands Energy Agency, and TII, to name but a few. So what does a low carbon town mean to Portlaoise, and how will it impact on the community? Well, we need to adapt to lower emission vehicles. We need to adapt homes and businesses, and homes need to be heated and lit in a more cost efficient and energy efficient way. And the long-term benefits will only be great and good for Portlaoise. It'll be a better town, a healthier town, and a more energy efficient town in the long term. So our planners have worked very hard to bring together a document called Portlaoise 2040. And, this is a vision for Portlaoise, and it's a strategy that re-examines and repurposes the town centre of Portlaoise, and it'll deliver a vision statement for Portlaoise, and it represents a unique opportunity to become Ireland's first low-carbon town centre with a heightened awareness on Portlaoise's evolution and fabric, and it'll be achieved through a number of interventions, as you can see there below, but I'll also include a number of other ones. The designation of key urban spaces for enhancement and specific urban designs, prioritisation of pedestrian linkages between old and new town areas, which will allow the town to become a connected place, the greening of the town centre to improve environment and aid in the overall health and well-being of residents, reducing the use of the car on the public realm and promote walking and cycling, and improving mixed uses within the town centre. And our aims will be achieved by removing large volumes of traffic from congested areas. So we're going to utilise the new Southern Circular Road and reconfiguration of existing traffic flows throughout the town. But we want to build on the development of a park and stride policy. At Laois County Council will also be encouraging an increase in the adoption of cycling by extending on-road and off-road cycleways, and the creation of the Trio River Blueway as an environmental and amenity objective will be crucial within this. We'll also be retrofitting an existing further 1,200 street lights with energy efficient LEDs and adding additional lighting to poorly lit areas. So we're going to conduct a poll now just to see what kind of energy can be saved and where it can be utilised elsewhere. So it's a bit of fun there, and we can see what that throws out. Further energy efficiency amenities will include the addition of 30 EV charge points, which I've mentioned, but also the extension of our number of solar compactor bins from 30 up to 50. So this is an idea of the current layout of Portlaoise Town Centre and JFL Avenue. And the next slide then will give you an idea of the vision that the planning department has set out. And you can see the greening of the areas there, and it's creating a vibrant town centre. There still is vehicular access, but it looks like it's a very exciting project for further down the line. So our view of what needs to be demonstrated. So how we can work with people to bring back vitality to the core centre of the urban area. Show what a sustainable and low carbon urban community economy should look like. How businesses and heritage can work together and be mutually beneficial. And mainly how we can entice people back to live in urban centres. So there's some huge developments coming in Portlaoise, namely on either end of Main Street in the CBS site and the convent site. So even the convent site there in Tadhg have made a submission in regards to the planning process, but where they highly commended the project. And as I said, these developments are either end of Main Street, and it's we're aiming to encourage numbers back into the town centre. We want to showcase that it's a vibrant town centre to live and work in. And another point is how business clusters can work together in regional towns. So we've got our Portlaoise SEC, which will hopefully soon be moving into the master plan phase, whereby we can look at drawing down funding for businesses and householders to draw down funding to improve their energy efficiencies. And also the Cube is an exciting project coming to the town, which I will update you on later on in the slideshow. So also urban design and public realm and how it brings confidence to the place and to people. So just to give you a brief rundown on the convent site there now. So this is a major new housing development in Portlaoise, and approval has been given for work to be carried out of this scheme in the heart of Portlaoise town, and it's located on Church Avenue, and it was made possible by the gifting of the site to Laois County Council by the Presentation Sisters, with their only stipulation being that the site was to be used for social housing for the benefit of the community. We're partnering up with Sophia Housing to make this happen, and there's a budget in excess of 10 million, and the new accommodation should be available towards the end of 2021. It will have 52 housing units, 4 houses, 48 apartments, and 6 separate blocks. And it will include conservation and redevelopment of the former convent building, which is a protected structure. But also it will be developed in tandem with the cultural quarter of the town, including Fitzmaurice Plaza and the new county library on the old Shaw's department store site just up the road from it. So the scale and scope of the development will create a real sense of urban renewal at the central location, and development will be very convenient to the town centre and services, which also help it make conducive to climate action. So it's great that people are going to be brought back to the town centre and bring the town centre back to life. So the other development is at the CBS site, and this is a urban regeneration development at Railway Street in Portlaoise, and it's a huge housing development planned beside the railway station. An agreement has been reached between 3 parties involved in the project: Adrian Developments, Clued Housing and Laois County Council to proceed. So it's going to be developed on a 5-acre site. 67 resident units will be built with open spaces and 94 car parking spaces provided. And the housing units will be owned by the Housing Association, and the car park will be operated by Laois County Council. So the proposed development is it's a flagship for the town of Portlaoise, and it's a fantastic location and great for the town and for the people who are going to move in and live in that area. So some of the objectives of Portlaoise Town Centre. So it is our policy to make Portlaoise a low carbon town centre, and this will be done through, as I've mentioned before, the reduction in carbon emissions and air pollution. We want to increase cycling and walking via improvements to JFL and Leicester Square. We want to introduce an electric bus service, which I'll talk about shortly. We want to rebalance existing car parking spaces and include significant areas of Tadhg Madden which will be replaced with green areas, planted areas and trees, etc. So the town centre will be reconfigured with traffic flows moving away from congested areas and around by the Portlaoise Southern Circular. There's a heat map in the bottom right hand corner there showing cycle trips taken into town, and we want to build on this. We want to, where feasible, separate pedestrian and cycle traffic from vehicular traffic. So we ran a cycle workshop recently there to get information back from locals, and we got huge feedback to help us properly plan and improve and upgrade our cycle facilities in Portlaoise. And it was great to see that there's such an appetite there ahead of our ability to deliver these facilities. So I've covered pedestrianisation. So look, we want to create Ireland's first low carbon town centre and improve the overall air and environmental quality and promote health and well-being. Just to talk a bit about our low carbon implementation group. So Ireland 2040 plan identifies the town of Portlaoise as a national demonstration project on how to implement sustainable and community driven urban renewal. So Portlaoise has been allocated funding in this, as we mentioned before, and in order to get the best advance of the concept of the low carbon town, we were of the view that we helpful to establish a low carbon implementation group to address the implementation challenges and opportunities in Portlaoise and similar sized regional towns. So the establishment of the group provides an opening to promote and demonstrate the ongoing work of individual stakeholders at local level, and also to show how partners can work together to deliver on existing and proposed targets under the Climate Action Plan. So the implementation group comprises of representatives from the public sector and the private sector, including academia, energy generation, the health service, retailers, transport, and this all functions as a delivery and implementation network, with agreed actions showing leadership at local levels. So following on from a meeting we had earlier this year, we drafted an interim report that we sent to the department, and it just outlines all the actions, climate actions achieved by partners and Laois County Council over the last year. Some of our partners include Gas Networks Ireland, and they have a huge project planned at Toker. So they're working with Applegreen to open a compressed natural gas refuelling station. Now there's one planned for Bird Hill in Portlaoise as well. So they've entered into an agreement with Applegreen to develop a publicly accessible CNG station. It'll be located just off the M7 motorway. The investment is worth over 2 million between the service station in Tipperary and Portlaoise, and it'll allow businesses to reduce their energy or transport costs and emissions. So construction is underway on that project, and compressed natural gas is a proven alternative to diesel and petrol, and it reduces transport costs by up to 25% and also reduces the carbon emissions. So it's estimated there's 25 NGVs in operation worldwide, with almost 2 million in Europe. And while HGVs and buses only account for 4% of vehicles on Ireland's roads, they account for up to 30% of all emissions in the road sector. So compressed natural gas for transport is one of the key gas technologies set out in Gas Network Ireland's Vision 2050, which outlines how it can reduce Ireland's total carbon emissions by a third and create a net zero carbon gas network. So, this is a very significant project, and to meet the emission reduction targets, and Gas Networks Ireland are leading the development of this new cleaner transport network to support Ireland in reducing our greenhouse gases. The NTA then, the National Transport Authority embarked on a programme to secure provision of local public transport services in large towns in Ireland, and the programme calls for the provision of town bus networks in large towns to enable growth and provide public transport options for residents and visitors. So Portlaoise is the principal town in Laois and was earmarked under the Regeneration Development Demonstration Town in the National Planning Framework, and we have a population of just over 22,000, which has grown by 9% since the last census, and its population density makes it the sixth most densely populated town in Ireland outside of Dublin. So we've been working closely with the NTA to deliver this bus service, and hopefully it's going to be electric bus service. There'll be 2 routes with both measuring approximately 7 kilometres end to end, with a total of 40 bus stops planned, and all the main destinations will be serviced, including the Main Street, JFL Avenue, the Laois Shopping Centre, Midland Regional Hospital, the train station, and large residential areas also. So the next steps are primarily to secure funding to carry out this bus service. We look at running time surveys, timetable designs, maybe deep dive into the routes as well, and also obtain approval from the Road Authority, and then proceed with the implementation of the scheme. Another exciting project is Cool Namona, a project that Board Namona are looking at, and they've unveiled plans for a major renewable gas facility. It's at Togher, just outside Portlaoise, and it's intended that the renewable gas facility will treat up to 80,000 tonnes of non-hazardous waste, and biodegradable and organic materials annually, according to the company. In other words, then it'll primarily harness the gas energy from farm slurry and food. And it's projected that the plant will produce enough renewable biogas to supply 5,500 homes per annum. And it's a well-established process known as anaerobic digestion, and it will convert organic materials into biogas, and then it's upgraded to a pure biomethane, which is equivalent to natural gas, and then injected into the gas network nearby. So the company is, continually diversifying and divesting itself out of its previous core operations of peat harvesting, and it's transitioning into decarbonisation projects. So it also hopes to produce a byproduct biofertilizer, which can be suitable for agricultural land, and it'll help lower cost sustainable alternative. It's a lower cost sustainable alternative to traditional organic and chemical fertilizers. So it's a huge project there, and it'll be designed to treat 80,000 tonnes of organic waste each year, and will generate biogas on a continuous 24/7 basis. So I've another little poll here now, just to see what you think. How much food waste is currently thrown out on an annual basis in Ireland. So we can see the results of that maybe later on, but hopefully that will be up there now and you can see it. Some of the Laois County Council climate projects include measurement of the carbon footprint of Portlaoise, as I mentioned before. So Siemens have been appointed to carry out this project, and it'll be carried out again in a couple of years, whereby we can measure progress achieved. So it's going to take into account scope 1, 2 and 3 greenhouse gas emissions, and also the 6 greenhouse gases as per the Kyoto Protocol, and provide an estimate of renewable energy potential for Portlaoise, and establish a register of opportunities for the reduction of energy demand and transition to renewable energy supply. So this project is nearing completion, and as I mentioned before, we're the first local authority to carry out a measurement of a town of this scale in the country. It'll take in 13 square kilometres, and it'll be very interesting to see what it throws out. So I suppose another poll we could do here would be, what do you think would be the tons of CO2 emission per year for a town of Portlaoise's size? So there's 4 options given there. We don't have the answer yet, but it'd be interesting to see what the general consensus is of the audience. Another one I've mentioned is the electric vehicle charge points. So we carried out a market sounding exercise earlier on the year, as well as attending many seminars and talking to individual suppliers. And this was to kind of identify interested service providers and gain a clear understanding of the market interests, the capabilities, the dynamics, the concerns and cost models, and all the other relevant factors. So excellent information was gathered from that, and that allowed us to move through the tender process and to build the tender documents and the specification. And that tender assessment now is nearing completion, and there was a huge interest in it, and very, very high quality tenders were submitted, and we're very excited about this project. So it's hoped that this will have a successful tender appointed in the coming weeks, and starting by the end of the year, and get up and running with the project. We've also installed electric vehicle charge point in County Hall in the public area. So this is a pilot scheme as well, just to see what can be learned out of it, as this is going to be a huge project that we think will grow legs, and hopefully we can move outside of Portlaoise to other towns and villages, maybe through the SEAI funding. We're lucky in that we have funding under the urban URDF, Urban Regeneration Development Fund. So we're hoping to put in 20 to 30 charge points in Portlaoise town alone. So I suppose it's like the field, if you build it, they will come. So we're hoping that we'll put in the infrastructure, and we will be able to get EV owners into the town and, encourage the changeover from fossil fuel cars into EVs. So I suppose the market has grown considerably, 10% this year alone of growth. Just to give you a snapshot of Portlaoise in 2016, there were only 21 electric vehicles registered in Laois, and we're up to 127 electric vehicles registered in Laois now. So, there's quite a growth there in the country. The Cube then, which I mentioned, we received an allocation of just over 2 million from the Regional Enterprise Development Fund. This is going to be there to facilitate the creation of a low carbon centre of excellence. So Cube in Portlaoise is a multi-point incubation hub for the development of a low carbon centre of excellence, assisting in attracting and developing companies with a low carbon focus. So the Cube seeks to deliver jobs and innovation in the emerging low carbon economy, and it's envisaged that the Cube at Portlaoise will be a major new collaboration initiative, potentially the first of its kind in the country, that will have a significant impact across the region. So it's envisaged that the Cube will be the first development of its type and purpose in Ireland, making it an exemplar enterprise with national significance. And it will have a distinct focus on 4 equal pillars: job creation, low carbon urban design and planning, and low carbon services to enterprise, and particular focus on startups and small medium enterprises. So some of the other climate actions which have been ongoing in Laois County Council, I've mentioned Laois Climate Adaptation Strategy. We've established a climate action team with 15 staff members from various departments of the council, and this team will manage and oversee the mainstreaming of climate change into plans, strategies and policies of Laois County Council. In terms of green procurement, we've been in discussions with a procurement officer and trying to roll out a green procurement scheme into all our tendering processes across the board in all the different departments in the council. In terms of public lighting, there's been 1,500 lights upgraded, 1,200 in housing estates, with a further 2,500 planned to be replaced over the coming year. We put in 4 expressions of interest to the Climate Action Fund for a number of different schemes. Our energy efficiency rating was at joint top with Louth at the start of the year at 41%, surpassing the 33% target. And we've completed our M&R returns a few months ago, and we're currently at 43.2%. So we might be number 1 yet come the next returns. So we want to verify the accuracy of this rating. I've mentioned the SEC, which we've established in Portlaoise town. So we're in the middle of doing our community charter, and then we're going to move from the learn phase to the master phase. So we'll help achieve financial and energy savings for the community. The development plan, then there's a whole chapter being dedicated to climate in our new draft development plan, and we're working with the planning department to ensure we get this right in the future. In terms of community engagement, it's very hard due to the current pandemic, but there's still fantastic work going on out there in the community, and by engaging with the community, it's possible to bring projects to the fore. And I'll show you some of the great work going on now in some of the next few slides. So Laois Partnership have been running a number of environmental workshops with Duncan Stewart, namely sustainable transport, climate change in Laois, the future of sustainable farming. And Duncan is examining the potential to train people to insulate their own attics. So, as I said, community engagement is paramount here, and we have to activate people into thinking green. And, Laois Partnership through Leader Funding have delivered some brilliant projects recently. O'Moore Park Green Stadium project is a very exciting project underway at the minute. And, they're upgrading their floodlighting to LED. They'll be the first stadium in the country to do that. They have a number of biodiversity projects. They'll be looking at water harvesting, segregated waste stations, a number of different things, as you can see there. So funding has been granted there through the SEAI and LEADER. Our Southern Circular Road Scheme, so this was a biodiversity enhancement project, upgrading of 7 roundabouts. And this was done in conjunction with Portlaoise Tidy Towns, whereby they approached Laois County Council to complete an enhanced landscape finish with an emphasis on spaces, and they were successful in leader funding. So it's a great carbon capture. It looks great. There's wildflower meadows, there's bee banks, there's a feature ornamental pollinator friendly planting project there as well. So some great things going on. Another huge scheme is in the Green Infrastructure Plan for Coninchie Residents Association. So their Laois Partnership supported them to develop a green infrastructure plan for the entire state and outline green areas, over 13 acres, and they're busy developing these actions with a current focus on pollinator-themed actions, which will help Portlaoise achieve the objectives of the All-Ireland Pollinator Plan. And they've delivered a very impressive programme in conjunction with Portlaoise Tidy Towns, and it's proven to be an absolute bonanza for wildlife, delivering massive results with noticeable increase in the number of pollinator species. And they're going the extra mile for biodiversity by becoming one of the first areas in the country to implement an innovative new herbicide weed control product to move away from the conventional based treatments. So they're a huge community group, and there's over 700 houses in the area, and it's great to see them delivering their own low carbon projects through leader funding. So I saw this slide in a previous conference I attended, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. We're carpooling to a greener future. So local authorities have the infrastructure and the tools to make a huge impact for the better on the environment, and the objective is to demonstrate flexibility, agility, and a capacity of local authorities to deliver. And we're actively engaging, as I said, with our local, external stakeholders through our low carbon implementation group on climate related projects. We want to rejuvenate the town centre, remove the downside car, and address poor pedestrian and cycle facilities. We're bringing housing developments to either end of Main Street in the town, with close proximity to all amenities, including bus services and the train station. As I said, COVID has hit and reduced our capacity to engage with the communities, but we're actively working on that through other means. And there's great community groups out there doing great work, such as the GA, Tidy Towns, Laois Partnership, the Comanche Residents Association, even our libraries and community sections. They're all doing fantastic work to get the message out there, as we're actively looking to reduce our carbon footprint. So, we want to make Portlaoise a near zero emission town, and we need to create this clean energy revolution. Renewable energy, it could be a game changer here in terms of what's coming down the road in terms of wind and solar, low carbon electricity generation. There's anaerobic digestion, biomass, new forms of energy supply such as hydrogen. They'll all play a part in the future energy mix, helping to displace the fossil fuels as a primary energy source. And there'll be hopefully an enhanced push towards electric vehicles, not only EVs, but other forms of mobility such as e-bikes and even e-scooters in time. So we're going to continue to work hard to make our Portlaoise 2040 vision and our reality, and our Portlaoise low carbon town project a reality. So thanks very much for listening, and I can take any questions you may have.